Well, over a decade ago, the term Hindu terror came to be used frequently by a section of politicians and their echo chambers to suggest that some Hindus have organized themselves into terror groups and pointed towards the Malegaon Blast case, amongst others. However, under legal scrutiny, 34 witnesses in the case have turned hostile. They claim that their testimonies to the Maharashtra ATS were cooked up and coached under duress by the investigating officers of the ATS. Later, the NIA took over the case and facts started surfacing. Today, another witness has been dismissed from the case since his testimony was found to be against a man who's already been discharged. Now remember, based on these very testimonies, several people, like the much lauded army man Colonel Purohit, was thrown into jail. Others like Charu Pragya were eventually given a clean chit by the NIA in 2016. However, the trial still continues. Today, questions are now being raised on who built this fiction to frame them. Well, after 34 coach testimonies, now the court has outed all of this, and it's important for us to understand what has really happened. In fact, let's tell you how Times Now today has unearthed the sworn testimonies of these same witnesses, which really suggests that the agencies may not have been above board when these testimonies were collected. In fact, here for the first time from the mouths of the witnesses, how words were allegedly attributed to them, even though they never really spoke to them. In fact, some of them were also eyewitnesses in the case. Let's get you some of the testimony. Now, this is very significant. This is witness number 288 statement. This was given on 19th of November last year. What did this witness say? Well, we have that testimony running there. It says that the laptop shown to me, I don't remember nor identify. It goes on to say that I cannot read, write or understand Marathi. I had signed on exhibits on behalf of my senior. He was essentially asked to sign it by his senior. The witness goes on to say, don't recollect signing of any of these handing over of the certificate as well. Now, these are witnesses who have later turned hostile in the case. Let's also get you another such witness's statement, which was then taken off. This is witness number 108. The statement was given on 19th of November. What did this witness say? That the police did not inquire with me, but inquired the others. So he was not even questioned by the police as per the retraction statement that he had given in court. He also said, I don't know if anybody visited Purohit or not. However, based on testimonies like this, remember, Colonel Purohit was put behind bars. This witness also goes on to say it is not correct to say that the police have recorded my statement, but despite that, he was presented as a witness, remember. He also says that I had not stated the contents in the portion which have been marked out. He went on to say it is not correct to say that the statements were recorded as per my say. This is just two of the statements that we are getting here on Times Now. We are getting you not one, not two, but 7 different testimonies which were later retracted. What did the witnesses say when they retracted that statement? That is the Mega Times Now exclusive that we are getting for you. This is yet another witness. This is witness number 109. This is the statement that he had given in court, and it says that I haven't visited the spot and do not have any more knowledge about all of this. In fact, he then goes on to say, and we are going to show you the rest of what he has said as well. He said that I don't recollect if the police have recorded my statement. So what does this mean? This is a serious lapse in the probe which has happened if a witness later on says, I don't even recollect giving a statement to the police. He goes on to say Purohit was a good officer, was working in a good manner. He went on to say it is not correct to say that the police are pressurizing me to depose against Purohit. However, he does say that Purohit is a good man. So there are these conflicting testimonies which have now been coming in. A lot of these testimonies now, remember, have been retracted by the people who had given to them. So far, till date, 34 of these witnesses have now turned hostile. Let me go across to our reporters who are joining us. Radhika Ramaswamy, she is the one who's managed to access all these testimonies for us. Great job, Radhika, because these are testimonies which were retracted later on when they face legal scrutiny. The importance of these testimonies, Radhika, we'll take our viewers through some more, but the importance of this, because based on these testimonies, isn't it right that several people such as Colonel Purohit, even Charu Pragya, were all locked up for several years?
Certainly, as far as Malegaon trial is concerned, this has seen several twists and turns over the last many years. We are talking about 15 years of twists and turns, be it ATS investigating the case and then NIA taking over the case, be it ATS charge sheet, which was completely in contradiction to the NIA charge sheet, which was filed later, MCOCA being dropped by NIA, and later, of course, NIA giving clean chit to several of the accused and so on. Of course, all the accused are out on bail. Many accused were discharged as well. Currently, of course, 7 accused out on bail. But the fact remains that this has seen several, twists and turns, and there has been a consistent delay. Now, coming to the, witnesses' statement themselves, so far more than 300 witnesses have been examined, of which hostile. Now, when we talk about these 34 witnesses, most of them, as you already mentioned, most of them are connected to the main accused, which is Colonel Purohit as well as Charu Pragya. And most of these accused have, in fact, given contradictory statement before the court while they were deposing before the court. They said that, as you already pointed out, many of them saying that their statements were taken under duress. They were pressurized by the ATS. The latest, a person who turned hostile just last week, saying that he was also an army personnel. He said that he had to give statements at gunpoint. So ATS's case completely weakened, which is one of the reasons why, of course, case was handed over to NIA. But at this point, many of these witnesses turning hostile, and 34 witnesses turning hostile is not a small number. And not just that, of these 300 witnesses, many have been dropped by the prosecution as well. Today, a witness was dropped simply because he was called in. However, he was irrelevant because he was connected to a discharge accused. That is something that over the several years as well. The question is, why are these witnesses, irrelevant witnesses, being called? Because there is clearly a delayed tactic also that we are seeing. Something that had been spoken by the accused time and again. Many petitions filed before the higher courts to expedite the trial as well. But that has not happened over the last several years. We'll have to wait and see. There are at least about half a dozen more witnesses who are to be examined. In fact, about 10 to 15 more, of which many are going to be dropped, certainly, and several may be turning hostile as well.
Well, that's very important because, remember, this is a case which dates back to 2008. First, it was being investigated by the ATS. Then it went across to the NIA. Now, this truth, which is coming to light, is many decades later. It is something which makes one wonder what was the reason for so many false witnesses, coached witnesses, as they are calling it, or coerced testimonies to be added to the probe. Serious questions being raised. Let me go across to Pranesh. Pranesh, why don't you get us 2 more such testimonies that Radhika has managed to access for us?
That's right. Let's put this in perspective for our viewers. And what better than the witness testimonies, because these are people who allege that they were tortured by the investigating officers during the course of the probe, forced, assaulted to say things that they had no idea about. Let's come to witness testimony number 146. Here it is. Let's in fact begin with 149. He says, I can't say if Colonel Purohit is present in court or not. Then he said, it is not true that Purohit sat in his vehicle and went away. This is the testimony, this is the highlight. Then he went on to say, it is not true that I read out my statement and it is correct as per my say. So if he was not reading out his statement, who was? And why was he then forced to sign? He said, I had not stated so to the police. So obviously telling the court that they were under duress to say something that was prepared by the police.
And that's very disturbing, because then we have to understand, if the agencies itself are not above board, then what was this larger frame-up, as the BJP is calling it? In fact, let me go across to our panelists. Charu Pragya is joining us, spokesperson of the BJP. Subash Jha is joining us, an advocate. Atiq Ur Rehman, an Islamic scholar, is also here on our show. Charu Pragya, I'm going to come to you first. For many years, it is over a decade now, that the term Hindu terror has been used. But one after the other, the kind of cases which were associated with this term, which was coined by a certain ecosystem, have been falling flat, have been fizzling out, hasn't it?
Yes, absolutely, Meghna. And we need to remember that any kind of an ecosystem which is spreading a fake narrative is going to come crashing down sooner or later. In this particular case, I think we must remember that for all the UN cry that the opposition and the left cabal continues to make, the court has acquitted Charu Pragya Thakur. The court has taken a stand, and we need to respect that. Today, as of today, every time a witness turns up in court, they have a right to choose what they want to say. We know at that point of time there was a lot of coercion on witnesses to say certain things. There was a lot of pressure for the police also to act in a certain way during that investigation. That has stopped now. I am so glad that it has.
And let me also remind our viewers about 2007 Samjhauta Blast. The accused Asimanand and others, they were acquitted in 2019. Mecca Masjid Blast, Asimanand and others acquitted in 2018. Then you had the Ajmer Sharif Blast, Asimanand and 6 others acquitted in 2017. Malegaon Blast, Charu Pragya and 5 others were given a clean chit by the NIA. The trial still continues, but they were given a clean chit by the NIA in 2016. So Atiq Ur Rehman, I'll ask you a simple question. Was there a hit job on Hindu pride?
Well, then, Krishmi, if Charu is saying that at that time the police was coerced into, the investigating agencies were under the pressure of, at that time the government was, why should I believe that at this particular moment the investigating agencies are not under pressure from the BJP government? Why shall I believe that the witnesses are not getting intimidated? You know, the government changed. What I want, Krishmi, is the justice being done to the victims of the blast. If they have not done, if the Honorable Colonel Purohit was not involved, if Pragya Singh Thakur was not involved.
But Atiq Ur Rehman, the NIA itself has given a clean chit to Pragya Singh Thakur. These are witnesses of their own accord who are saying that we were coached, we were tutored. There were some who have said that at gunpoint I was forced to give this statement, Atiq Ur Rehman. So where is the injustice?
I would ask 2 questions from Mr. Jha, since he is a lawyer, that in the absence of the witness protection law in India, why should we believe that witnesses are not being intimidated today? Because this particular case, a member of parliament has been taken, accused has been taken as a member of parliament.
Okay, I'll just go across to Subash Jha. Pragya, quickly, the other side is now opposing that after a regime change, essentially after your Sarkar came, all the witnesses one after the other are turning hostile.
Well, they would like to believe so, but you know, Meghna, I want to remind you of some investigation that your own channel had done a few years ago. There was a case in Delhi where it was being said that there's been vandalism in churches, Hindu groups have done it, so on and so forth. Later on, it was found out that it was basically a ploy to make sure that Hindus are seen in a bad light in the country. There are so many instances found like that later when investigated, it turned out that this entire ecosystem, which has been hell-bent on showing the peace-loving, very, very tolerant Hindus in a very different light, it's been exposed, and it's been exposed many times. I think this is one more such thing.
Okay.
Let me first assure you that anybody who's practicing this religion is nation-loving. There is no way that they will be involved in anything which is going to go against what the religion teaches.
And also, let's remind our viewers that when it comes specifically to Colonel Purohit, he was called a good officer. He got one of the highest ratings from the army itself. Right before his name suddenly came up as an anti-national, someone who was carrying out acts of terror allegedly against. But Subash Jha, there is a very important point that Atiq Ur Rehman has raised, because it's been about 15 to 16 years now. The trial has been going on. It has gone from one investigating agency to the other, from the ATS to now the NIA. Does that take a toll when it comes to the quality of witnesses' testimonies? Over the years, many of them, 34 in this case, have turned hostile.
See, look at the time span. The time span plays a very important role. The incident is of 2008, and
Yes.
if the witnesses are required to depose after 14 years and 15 years, we may not have the memory fades away. And that is what the Supreme Court has also taken cognizance of, note of, that you must try the accused as expeditiously as possible. Now, in 2017 decision, the Supreme Court in the matter of Hussain versus Union of India has laid down the outer limit of 2 years. If the sessions trial cases are to be tried, the trials are required to be concluded within 2 years. But then that is not feasible. Nothing happens even after Hussain and so many host of other decisions. Look at what happened in the matter of Nazib, K. Nazib. Recently, the Supreme Court directed release of the accused because of long incarceration, although he was languishing in jail for a very, very heinous offense. Let me tell you, as a lawyer, I feel that in my country, the criminal justice system or the trial delivery system that we have, the trial system that we have, is absolutely obsolete. It is outdated. It is antiquated, and something which is drastically needs to be done. Now look at what happened in this case. An officer of the rank of colonel in army who was responsible for gathering sensitive information against terrorist outfits. Now look here, he himself had to remain in jail for such a long period of time. And what is going to be the demoralizing effect and impact on the army or our defense personnel? And if this is the manner in which, problem is that why those witnesses should be disbelieved, or why, if at all, those police personnel who have recorded the statements and the court possibly has made some of them responsible, issued notice to them saying that you come and tell us as to why so many witnesses have turned hostile. So whether either those witnesses were not of that quality which were required to have been examined, or those witnesses have been really tutored or were forced to give statements. Now, unless and until we enact our law and make our investigators responsible, they are not responsible.
Yes, it's time to fix accountability, but also those who may have coerced as per the witnesses to give false testimony and indict people who may have been innocent all along. Well, thank you so much for joining us here on the panel. Unfortunately, we're running out of time. There's some big break.